Welcome back to Unlearn with Bianca. If you're tuning in for the first time, then welcome. On this podcast, we explore everything around self-healing, health, personal growth, the mind-body connection, relationships, and more. Hey guys, today we are talking to John van Hunan. John is a trauma-informed breathwork facilitator. Welcome, John.
G'day. Thank you for having me on here. I'm super excited to take a bit of a step into the space with you and kind of explore some ideas and introduce people to their practices of like breathwork.
Yeah, cool. I know a few breathwork facilitators, but everyone has directed me your way. So I'm looking forward to this conversation. And for you guys listening, breathwork has definitely been something that I have implemented along my journey, especially in the last few years, really connecting more into my body. I think brain retraining and working with the mind is one thing, but also that need, like I've talked on before, of really connecting into the body, into our intuition. And breathwork has definitely helped me with that. So, yeah, I'm excited to be having this conversation. John, do you just want to start by telling the listeners a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is John van Hunan. I am from New Zealand, grew up in Auckland, South Auckland, like rural South, grew up on a farm. I spent my early career as a marine cabinet maker. I used to build interiors for boats. So I was a tradie. My dad was a tradie, so always spent time on building sites and like building things. And right now I'm currently actually turning a Toyota Coaster bus into a camper van, which has been fun. Yeah, then I went to university design school and kind of traveled around. I've lived in various locations in New Zealand, but also lived in Sydney and London and been on a journey career wise, but my direction kind of took a turn because I used to always get sick. I was kind of known in my family as being it was kind of a running joke that I was always sick on my birthday.
Well, sorry, I wanted to even say on this, a lot of people, I think, that get into this realm of healing or, anything to do with the mind-body connection, sickness, like I talk a lot about, can be the start of their journey or ongoing symptoms. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, totally. It's a big initiation into, I guess, eventually, or from my personal experiences, we discover that the systems, the Western systems that we've been using to cope with our health just aren't quite getting us where we want to be. Like, it's all very well to put a sticking plaster over the issue, but what we really want to do is to live more fully and freely. And so I was actually living over in Sydney when I first really started getting into this that world. I was about 26, 27. I just had my second lot of pneumonia, and I moved into the flat after living in a hostel for 3 months, which I wouldn't recommend to anyone, especially if you've got a weakened immune system like I had at that point in time. Yeah, so I moved into this flat, and one of the girls that was living there was just talking about a kinesiologist, and I'd never really heard of anything like that before, but she was talking about how it was really helping her with some bits and pieces that was going on with her. So I was like, oh, maybe it can help with asthma and chest infections. Yeah, I spent 1.5 years seeing that kinesiologist, and that kind of really kickstarted things for me. Opened me up to, I haven't been to the doctor since then, which was like 6 years ago, which is massive from someone who lived off antibiotics, like chest infections that would leave me bedridden within a few hours. I was really into cycling time, and I'd go cycling, and then a few hours later I'd be bedridden and not be able to do anything for the next entire week, sort of thing. So that was probably my introduction to this different way of looking at the world and opening up possibilities of understanding how my health and well-being worked and what was possible. Often it's the these looping, outdated systems that we have, these worldviews or mind-body connections that we have that no longer serve us. That they were there to keep us safe at one point in time. Yeah, eventually it's time to move on from them.
We kind of get forced to look at things differently, right? So that was the opening to you taking
totally.
a different perspective.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. We see the world and we're like, surely there's got to be a better way to live. And
Mm-hmm.
I was always told, oh, it's your diets, you need to change your diet, and this is happening, and this is happening. And then I was looking around, and my friends who are drinking cans of V and eating pies were far healthier than I was. So I was like, obviously, it's not the way I'm eating when I'm eating so well. So what else is beneath all that? And get to the point where that is definitely a factor. You've definitely got to eat well and drink plenty of water and whatnot. But then there's other stuff underneath that needs to be taken care of as well. That kind of allows space for these shifts in health and well-being.
Absolutely. So you got to that point and then you were introduced to breath work, or you just decided to jump in and take a training? How did that look for you?
So yeah, from Sydney, I moved to London and did various other modalities, got into yoga. I was managing a yoga studio over there, so I got really into that and was introduced to the more yogic styles of breathing. People often confuse the style that I teach with those yogic styles like the pranayama, the alternate nasal breathing and those sorts of systems. So yeah, I went over there, did all the plant medicines, did various other things, came back at the end of 2020 back to New Zealand, and I was scrolling my phone on Instagram, and this guy who was covered in facial tattoos came up, and I was like, hey, he seems kind of cool, so I'm just going to give him a follow.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, he was in quarantine in Auckland, so I was like, oh, wow, he's a Kiwi. And he was with his partner, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to do a workshop in a few months' time. And I was like, I have no idea what it is at that point.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what, I'm just going to sign up for it, no matter what it is. So I jumped in there, and then that was my introduction to breathwork. That was with Awaken Breathwork. And, I'd tried all these modalities previously, but I came out of there feeling like I had complete control and mastered my own system, and I did all the work myself. And that was such a liberating and powerful experience after all the years of all the other stuff that I'd done, where I just felt like I was going and seeing someone and they were the one who was directing me and energetically working with me. It was all me. I was doing the energetics, I was doing the breathing, I was shifting my mindset. Yeah, from then on I was like, holy shit, I really want to bring this to the world.
I love that.
Yeah, then that's what I did.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I think that's so powerful, because I have had the same experience with what I teach, and me actually being in the driver's seat of my own healing, which felt very different from a lot of amazing modalities and things I had tried and people I'd worked with. But it's a different feeling when you realize how powerful you are. You're like, shit, it's all within me. Like, it's a positive, and it can be quite scary at this time. Yeah. But that's awesome. So you did
it opened up a whole new world of opportunities.
A whole new world. So you did the workshop, and then you just felt the sense of like, this is what I want to move into. You kind of knew instantly.
Yeah, totally. I'd been looking for something for a long time. I'd been looking for something for a while, because I knew that I wanted to change the world. I'd been a tradie and I'd done all these things, and I'd seen how challenging life can be, and worked with people who had. Yeah, I've written I've got a notebook of some of the things I've heard people say or whatnot in that tradie space, and I was like, I just really want to support these people, but I've got no tools. And then it wasn't until I discovered breathwork, I was like, oh wow, this is something where I can bring and shift things at a good rate.
Yeah. So you went on to become an Awaken Breathwork Facilitator. Hopefully I've got that label right.
Yeah, did their training for 9 months.
9 months. That's a lot. That's a long training. Very comprehensive by the sound of it, from what I've heard.
Yeah, it's interesting because unlike the yoga space, which has got the 200 level or the Yoga Alliance, you probably might have heard of that, breathwork is still quite a modern modality. Yeah. And so there is no system in place, no governing body, which means that I could say, hey, Bianca, you're a breathwork facilitator now, and you are. And there's plenty of people out there who have done exactly that, who are facilitating, and I'm sure they offer something that's of value to some people. But Awaken's training is next level beyond. 9 months, every second week we're doing a breathwork sessions. So we'd end up doing like 19 breathwork sessions
Wow.
in the 9 months. And then every week is a new module. And it's very noticeable as a facilitator. In fact, I've had clients who have trained with other companies, and they'll come out of sessions and be like, what the hell was that? I didn't even know that was possible through breathwork. It's a whole other level of the depth you can take.
Yeah, and that's amazing. And that actually leads into my next question, because what I really want to demystify on this podcast is a lot of these practices. I would consider myself very open-minded, but sometimes I even get completely thrown by some label, some modality. I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like, can someone actually break this down for me? I personally have done some breathwork journeys myself. I haven't done an Awaken one. I've done some of the Awaken daily. Overseas, I've done breathwork journeys. But when you say when you work with someone, what does that look like? Is it a short practice? Is it a longer practice? How would someone experience that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So often, and actually you've been to where we did the breathwork on the beach together. So that was a daily practice. That was like a little 5-minute practice that just allows us to bring ourselves into alignment throughout the day, or relieve a little bit of that tension. And often people might have a little bit of an emotional release in there, just depending on what's simmering to the surface in that space. But when it comes to doing a one-on-one session with me, that'll look like about 3 hours. And for the first hour or so, we'll just be communicating and creating a nice, safe, comfortable container for that individual. But the thing I love about breathwork is we don't have to really go. If you don't want to talk about something, we don't have to do it. Like, it's not like therapy where you're kind of encouraged to really dig into that discomfort. We can just work our way around it. As long as it's within your awareness, by the time we come to lying you down for that breathwork journey, that's all we need. The body knows, and mind system knows exactly what it needs to release in that space. And I guess another thing that I love about breathwork is that, unlike plant medicine journeys where, we ingest this thing and we're forced right into the depth of it for 3 to 7 hours, with breathwork, it's completely regulated by our own system. We choose whether we want to put the gas pedal on and really go into it, or we can kind of just, simmer our way into it. So after that, roughly an hour of just connecting and communicating and maybe introducing to some basic practices or a little bit of coaching, then we will go into the hour of breathwork journey. So that's an hour of that conscious connected breath, the forced inhale and the side relaxed exhale. And through that process, within about 10 or 15 minutes, definitely within 15 minutes, things will really start to come to the surface. And that might look like emotional releasing, or tremors in the body, or fluctuations in temperature. Some people will be freezing cold, or some people will be pouring in sweat, and or maybe nothing at all. Maybe they'll just be completely internal, and things will be shifting and moving through the process. It really depends on the person and what it is that they're working through. That happens, and they shift through whatever needs to be shifted through in that hour, and then we go into a nice guided meditation afterwards, just to slow everything right back down again. Because the last thing we want to do, and something that does happen, unfortunately, is people just get thrown out back into the street, like, oh yeah, next one. So you just want to create a really nice, safe space to really let everything marinate and simmer back down again before we go back out into the real world. So then we have a little bit of a chat. If the person feels comfortable talking about their experience, if they don't want to, that's cool as well. We chat a little bit about integration and what that might look like, because often there'll be, your intuition will drop through during the breathwork session. You're like, oh, I need to do this, or this needs to change. And I guess it's the same with other modalities, right? Like, unless we actually bring these changes in and actually do make these changes, nothing really changes. So yeah, the integration is a massive part of it. So, if something comes through, like I need to start, journaling more, or I really need to start this project now. It's like, okay, well, what steps now can you take to instigate that? Yeah, that's more or less how that 3 hours looks.
Yeah, thank you for really breaking it down, because it makes a lot more sense. People probably think you go in there for 3 hours and just breathe from the get-go, but there's obviously a lot of care, a lot of building up to that point. Because by the sounds of it, and from what I've experienced in, I call it a breathwork journey, because it was that 3-hour thing. As facilitators, practitioners, you take people into the sympathetic state, which is that more fast inhale, exhale, and then you bring them back down into the parasympathetic, which is the more rested state. Is that accurate?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that can be why the heat temperature fluctuates in their body as well. It's like as all the energy is being drawn to their organs or whatever needs to be processed, that can cause those changes in temperature. And then we want to bring them back to the parasympathetic state afterwards, just to relax and slow things back down. That's the state we want to live in, and that's, I guess, nothing I really encourage people to, or remind people about, is the importance of breathing through their nose daily, because that in itself helps to activate that parasympathetic. Humming to yourself does as well, actually.
I was going to say, both of those things, because we're kind of talking on two different things here. There's generally the mechanics of breathing and the way we breathe day to day and the awareness we have around our breath. And then there's the breathwork journey, which obviously it all comes into it, but that's more, it sounds like more of an experience that you'd have. And you're coming to yourself. I think that's the thing, is that even just saying that can feel so scary to so many people. What does that mean? How am I going to do that? Like coming to myself, actually stopping and I would say putting yourself in positions to be with yourself can be a really a daunting thing.
Totally. And I think we have, the social media epidemics and all those things that keep ourselves busy, because as soon as we stop, then we have to be with ourselves. And so there's all these little things now we can do to kind of avoid that. And I think that's what creates a lot of anxiety in people as well.
Even just taking that 5 minutes to breathe, to focus on the breath in the morning, or to meditate, or to get into nature, because that is building that capacity within our nervous system to be with ourselves. If it feels really scary and daunting to take that hour morning practice, and a lot of people are probably thinking, I haven't got the time to do that. It's about those small moments to connect with ourselves. I think that we have to remember that sometimes when we force ourselves to make big changes, it can really be built with time as well.
Yeah, totally. You don't have to go and do a Vipassana to connect with yourself. You can, 10 days of silent meditation, you can just start with 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes in the morning, just being with your breath, because it's the first thing that goes when we're stressed out, as we end up holding our breaths or shallow breathing.
I do want to circle back to the breathwork journey, but on just connecting to our breath to shift our state into that parasympathetic system, would you recommend a specific breath for that, or focusing on a certain count with an inhale and an exhale?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I find it's just a long inhale in through the nose and then sighing it out the mouth. Just really gently, and that just helps just to slow everything right down. Nice deep long inhales.
A question for me coming up just on the breathwork journey, what I found when I have done breathwork over like a prolonged few hours is there's definitely changes in the body and movement in the body. Like you said, hot and colds, some really big physiological shifts that go on. From your perspective, are you seeing that as changes in our energy system? Is it just releasing the stagnant energy? I'm really curious about that.
Yeah, it really depends on what the person is functioning through. Sometimes it can be they're caught in a freeze response, and that movement is them breaking out of it. I had one client not too long ago who completely lost use of their voice, and it was that the noises that were coming through it, and the release of that was this kind of opening of, I guess, for lack of the spiritual term is the throat chakra, and allowing himself to be heard and speak his truth or whatever. But there's so many different ways in which, from my experience, in which those energies can move, and it really depends as a case by case.
Yeah, after practicing breathwork, it does feel like you're letting go of a lot of stagnant energy. Is there any other type is the right word? Is there any other breath work that you practice as an Awaken facilitator. You've got your journeys, the activated breath, you've got the daily practice.
Yeah, I also, I mean, it's one of those things you can use for all sorts of things. I use it for various meditations as well. Even just as a process, I guess it comes back to that in through the nose, out through the mouth, as a really great way for, even just as in day to day, if you have tension within your body, just breathing in through the nose into that space and out to release it. I mean, there's box breathing, the 4 in, hold for 4, 4 out, hold for 4, and repeat. There's lots of those sorts of things as well. But for me, it really comes back to, I'm a massive fan for grounding and slowing things down. So I often just come back to breathing through the nose and slowing things down as much as possible, because we live in a society that's so heightened and there's so much going on, and our nervous systems are already maxed out just in daily life with the amount of caffeine we're drinking or being in traffic or the endless to-do lists or whatever that we have,
You're right. The world that we live in today is not catered to us being in our parasympathetic unless we go out of our way to really take that time to be in it. And I think, you hear of all these different modalities and different things that people try, but I think beneath it all is around the nervous system and how we can get back into that safety, can connect to ourselves. A lot of these are focused on the same thing, achieving the same thing for the individual. But yeah, it's a crazy time that we live in. I really think that so many people, even if they're not sick, are experiencing just the chronic effects of stress. What do you think hesitations people have with going into breathwork or trying breathwork? Because there might be some people being like, well, I breathe every day. I already know how to breathe. What's this gonna help me with? What's this gonna do? Could be from that angle, or someone might just be thinking, this feels like a lot. This feels completely woo-woo, completely spiritual.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like we spoke about earlier, are scared to, or maybe scared's the wrong word. They probably even know they're scared at its time because of resistance and like, I don't want to go there. But it's a fear of going into the discomfort that they're facing and really sitting with it and acknowledging that pain that they're holding on to, or that feels familiar to them. Yeah, really being with the discomfort as opposed to finding other ways to actively avoid it. And I think the other thing that, people who do, maybe they are familiar with breathwork and they see the posts online of people having these huge emotional releases and, tears streaming down their faces or hands all cramped up with tetany or all those experiences can be really overwhelming as well. And it doesn't have to always be like that. People like to use those photos because, because people like to see stuff like that online. But it's not always like that. It can be very gentle. And I guess, like I said, I like to slow things down, but I'm also very pro gentle journeys. Like, I'll ramp things up when I need to, but I like to keep things at a pace that someone can actually come out of that and fully integrate afterwards. Because if we push someone too hard, then we can re-traumatize them, or they might just shut down. Their nervous system is just too overwhelmed and they're not ready for whatever it is that's trying to be forced up in that process. I guess that with my encouragement would be that if you want to do a breathwork journey and you're a little bit nervous about that aspect, just remember you can come back to breathing through your nose anytime, because that'll help. That's like the brake pedal.
So you're obviously in the earlier stages of, well, I don't know, early stages. Have you been a facilitator for a while now, but you're still navigating the two worlds, figuring out how that's going to look for you, right? I shouldn't say two worlds. That seems very categorical in the sense that we put out labels in ourselves. But back to you, like, what goals do you have? What is your vision around this? Because you sound like you've got a lot of life experience and you've been in a lot of situations, you've learned a lot along the way. How would things look for you in a few years? Where would you like to go with this?
I guess come back to what you were saying previously. It's the illusion of duality, right? Like, we are multifaceted human beings, and that's what makes life so interesting. We don't need to be one thing or the other. And going forward, I would love to do retreats, taking people into nature and connecting with. We live, in New Zealand. We have so many beautiful rivers and oceans and forests, and I'd love to bring people into these spaces and reconnect them with the earth through their breath, eating nourishing food, full immersive experiences, but also taking those group journeys to the next level as well, like holding bigger events, which we've been starting to do more and more. As you said, I'm quite early on into my journey. I've been doing this for over a year now, but as far as being a year in, I've accomplished a lot, facilitated all over the world already, and have worked with a lot of clients, and things are really moving at pace, which I also owe a lot to Awaken, because we come out of this practice knowing exactly what we needed to do and the steps we needed to take to get there. And also the breath, right? The breath and connecting back to my inner guidance allows me to know what the next step is I need to take and where to go with it. So yeah, experiences like that. I have been speaking probably like for the last 5 years about wanting to write a book, and I think the time for that is getting pretty close. Starting a podcast, just all these little avenues of different levels of connecting with people, right from just these conversations to like the work we do, right, where we take people on deeper experiences and take them the deeper part of themselves.
I did hear you on another podcast talk about how you'd I think you said you'd worked with some gang members. You'd just done quite a lot of different things, and I really respect that. I like when people can really connect to a wide range of people, experiences, and share their gifts in that way. So I was just curious, throwing that question in on the spot, where you'd like to keep with this. It's just interesting. I do want to wrap up with one more talking point, really, because you mentioned their intuition. And again, I think it's something that we can throw around, following our intuition. But for a lot of people, it's really hard to connect to what is intuition, what is anxiety, how do I know when something's coming from my head versus my heart? And I sometimes I get that question, and I'm really lucky that for me personally, I feel like my intuition's always been strong, in the sense that if I'm not following it, it will definitely be felt in my body, as in I will get symptoms, and I'll get signs that I'm perhaps, I wouldn't say off course, but I'm not really making choices from a place of my deepest desire. How would you distinguish intuition, and how have you learnt to trust that?
I would say that intuition is gentle and a soft, loving voice, and intuition doesn't feel like it has to happen right now. There's no panic or stress in intuition, because I personally have found that too. I'm like, oh, my intuition's telling me that I need to break up with this person, and it's like, well, no, actually, that's your relationship anxiety. So, and yeah, like also, maybe asking your heart, or asking the question 3 times, just other ways that can really allow you to tune yourself in and solidify where that response is coming from. And then in regards to how can you trust that? By taking simple steps in the direction that your intuition is guiding you, and seeing where you land, and seeing what comes of it. Yeah, for me, my intuition, I first really tapped into it through journaling, and then so I'd journal for a few pages, and then I'd write on the page, what is the next step I should take, and then just whatever words came through was what I wrote. That's actually how I ended up moving to the UK. I was living in a tent in Byron Bay on a building site, And I was pretty fed up with life at that point, and I was doing a lot of journaling at the time, and I just asked the question, and it said, you need to move to the UK on this date. And I was like, that's stretchy, but all right. So I booked tickets that night, and then
Wow.
the rest is history. So yeah, it's just taking steps.
Yeah,
And
I
trusting
fully
that
agree.
process.
And often it's just the small nudges as well, because I've personally made decisions in the past and breakups and just things where you're like, I don't know why, and then nothing's wrong. And you kind of sit in there and you can, I think, sit with yourself for quite a while before you make a choice or you do something different, because obviously we can't make instantaneous decisions all the time. But I think it is, I'm reminding you as listeners that, I think a lot of us cannot stop to make that choice to tune in with ourselves before we move forward. And the more we can start doing that to really feel into our body or feel into what feels good, because our body is often giving us cues, the easier it becomes. And that can just start by, what do I want to have for dinner tonight? Really simple things. Do I want to carry on with it? Yeah. So
Yeah, absolutely.
just reaffirming that you will know the difference when you just continue to practice. Just practice.
Yeah, and maybe just that looks like just a couple of breaths before, just 3 breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, and closing your eyes, and then what is the direction I should be taking right now, and see where it takes you. Yeah, and then or if you're still a bit curious, say, I'd like a sign for which direction I should go in, and try and make it as obscure as possible so you can't deny that
I've done that a few times.
Yeah, ask for a green dragon or I don't know.
If you guys want me to do, I haven't really delved into that side of me or talking about that too much, but if you would like an episode on signs and connecting and belief systems around that, let me know, because I've got a lot to share in that area too.
I want to hear that. I can definitely do that.
Yeah, I think we'll create a whole other episode, but yeah, there's a lot I could share and a lot of positive stuff, which is very much, I think, connected to my intuition, but having a loved one on the other side and my connection has become stronger. My beliefs have become stronger, my spiritual beliefs. I would say our connection to something beyond ourselves is really important, even for our health, whether that be our community, whether that be nature, whether that be the universe, God. I think it's really important. That's my perspective. Thank you so much, John. Today's conversation has been so thought-provoking, and I hope for you guys listening, you've really got a better understanding of what breathwork is when people refer to breathwork and the different types available to us. John, what services have you got going at the moment, and how can people connect with you?
So I guess to connect with me, my name, John van Hunan, which is that on Instagram, John van Hunan. I also have, if that's too hard to remember or spell, just search Navigating Breath. I've got an Instagram handle with that as well. My YouTube channel is Navigating Breath. And I've got some guided meditations and some amazing cord cutting workshop on there. I highly recommend everyone should do that, because we always have energetic entanglements with people, and it's a nice way to clear those things. And then my website is navigatingbreath.com. I offer, as we were saying, one-to-one journeys. I do group sessions as well. I offer coaching and a 12-week program where we go real deep to really move those niggly belief systems and shift things in a big way. That's pretty much, those are the best ways to work with me at the moment. I'm going to be releasing some other bits and pieces, I feel, in the near future.
Really, really interesting work. And as you can hear, lots of opportunities and healing within all those services. So thank you guys for tuning in again. Got some more interviews coming up, and I've recorded a few solo episodes, which will also be coming out in the next few weeks. As always, please follow, please rate this podcast so more people can hear about it. Share with family and friends. Message me with your comments and your reflections. I always love to hear from you all. And until the next episode, I hope you have a beautiful week.